Beast Wars Season 2 Episodes 12 and 13, The Agenda Part 2 and 3. Crazy freaking season finale, I gotta say. I mean, this show has some of the greatest season finale cliffhangers ever. Like, the first season ends on, a character dying. We have the aliens get destroyed, but Optimus is killed, so it's like, what the heck are what's gonna happen now? And then this thing ends with, who knows, time itself is coming undone. And it was a great final two parts. We have a bunch of reveals. We find out that Tarantulas is actually like a secret agent of the police, of like the Predacon Alliance police. So he was actually, basically sent to work with Megatron the entire time to see exactly what he was up to. And it kind of explains why he always had this plan throughout the entire series to be so treacherous. That's why he kind of made Black Arachnia like him, because for whatever reason spiders are automatically evil. But that's why he was that way, and Black Arachnia is just kind of automatically made that way, I guess, because of the whole spider thing. But it was great, and I don't know if they killed a bunch of people off. I feel like they killed off like 4 characters in this final episode, these final 2 episodes, because there's a scene where Ravage has Megatron locked up. Like, after they get him in the first part, he has him locked up, and so Megatron is telling him, like, alright, you'll never find my Energon deposits and all that. And that's when we get the reveal that Tarantulas is actually working with the Secret Alliance. And that's why they had that scene in the last episode, is because he's actually, that's how he knew, because that was another thing, like, he knew that the ship was there. Even though they were going into like stealth mode, I was like, oh, I just assumed Tarantulas has like great technology. I guess it was actually because he knows that technology specifically. So he finds out, he's like, don't worry about it, Ravage, I got it decrypted. He doesn't have to tell us where it is. And so Optimus and Cheetor go to this, Energon deposit, and then it's like, oh, this Energon is raw Energon. These aren't Energon cubes. And Optimus is like, Megatron wouldn't have had this here if it weren't because, for a reason, so it was a trap. And they end up dealing with Inferno, who they beat up because he actually gets an overload. Like, they haven't done that in forever, but because they were in like this enclosed space and it was just a bunch of raw Energon, Inferno got messed up because he was in his his robot form. So he's going into like stasis mode, and then he's like, for the royalty, and he like sets the Energon on fire. And the way they do it, it's not like, oh, explosion. He like got disintegrated. That's how it looked. Like, it was like he turned to dust is what it looked like during that explosion. So I'm pretty sure he's dead. I don't think Rampage made it, because there's a part where the Predacons are, once Megatron and Ravage actually end up teaming up, because Megatron actually has like a final piece of this disc, of the golden disc, and so he puts it, he swaps out his like laser blaster on his tail, and it turns it back into that little record player, and so he spins it, and he starts playing this message, and it's from the original Decepticon, Megatron. And so that gets Ravage's attention, and he's like, oh, like he's like, I know Megatron's like, I know I've kind of been doing my own thing, but this was actually his plan, and he left this message for us in the future. And Megatron, the original G1 Megatron, is like, I know that transwarp technology is being created, so I'm creating this message basically for my descendants. It doesn't get to complete because it's a fraction of the disc. So after that, Ravage is like, alright, you're doing this because of my Megatron, and I'll let you go. So they actually end up teaming up, and so Megatron goes with Ravage, and they attack the ship and everything. They attack all the Maximals and stuff at their base. And at this time, we have Silverbolt and Black Arachnia together, and they're at this base. Like, they get to the place where Waspinator was, and they end up destroying him. Like, Silverbolt goes to try to stop Black Arachnia from doing whatever it is she's supposed to be doing. And so they have this conversation and stuff. And it was really funny because he's like trying to tell her, the whole Maximal thing again. And she's just getting pissed off. And she's like, look, I'm a Predacon, alright? Like, you need to let that crap go. And so she's like, I'm going to shoot you. And he's like, my heart tells me you won't. And she shoots him in the leg. And that was one of the funniest things. He was like, you shot me. She's like, yeah, like I'm a Predacon. And it was really funny. And then right after that, he's like, but you made sure it wasn't fatal, so that says something to me. And she just got really pissed off. And it was such a funny scene. But then it ends with them making out because he's like, you know, you look like you're either going to kiss me or kill me. And she actually had a great line. She's like, I'm a Black Widow. I get to do both. And I was like, that's actually kind of cool. So they're kissing while on the little ship, and they're flying. And Waspinator gets to these coordinates, and he's in the same space, like he's not paying attention at all. And so he transforms, and he's looking at this little thing. He's like, all right, made it to the location. And then as he's looking at this little scanner in his hand, they're making out and not paying attention. So this ship is just flying at full speed, and it rams straight into Waspinator. It destroys him. He like gets blown into a bunch of little pieces. They fall off the ship, and Silverbolt ends up saving Black Arachnia. And she's surprised by that. She's like, you know, even after I shot you. And then they have a great line because he's like, you know, it's kind of my duty. You know, it was like, you know, I always save you or something like that. And he's like, also, it's my duty as a hero character. And I feel like that was just sort of a fourth wall type of reference. Like, you know, that's kind of the character I am, so I have to. And I thought that was a nice, funny line. But they end up getting to this location, and Silverbolt mentions something. He's like, you know, it looks like someone dug a tunnel here and then blew it up and like covered it back up. And Black Arachnian pulls out this piece, and she's like, does this give you a clue? And it's like a piece of Megatron. It's like a purple piece. So Megatron was at this location, and he blew it up, or like he dug the tunnel and then he blew it up to basically cover it up, and it's just rubble now instead of all the time actually digging. So they're in this location as, you know, Megatron ends up with the rest of the Predacons attacking the main base. And so we have everybody there. You know, we get to see Scorponok, Rampage, Megatron, as well as Ravage and Tarantulas. They're all on the ship. Well, Tarantulas and Ravage are on the ship. Megatron was on top of it, but then he flies off and he starts going around shooting and stuff. And so things are going really crazy. The shields are going down for the ship, and then Ravage and Tarantulas have like this, basically it's a nuke that they have set up. It's like, alright, you set up the weapon, I'll fly around while I'm shooting the lasers and stuff. You set up the missile, and then that'll get rid of the ship once and for all, the Maximal ship. So they're attacking the base, the Maximals are defending themselves, and Rat Trap finds himself on top of Ravage's ship. He gets on top of there, and he breaks in, and he throws two sticky bombs directly on Tarantulas. Like, they land like right in his well, I'll just say hands. They land in his hands, and he can't do anything. Like, he hits the buttons and he throws them at him, and he like tries to block or something. He throws them like right into his hands, and they're stuck, and he can't do anything. So they blow up in his hands, and I assume that he died from that. And then, and the main reason I assume this is because after that big explosion, Rat Trap is on top of the ship, but the fire from the explosion flies all the way through the ship, and Ravage sees it coming down the hallway, and he just yells like Decepticons forever, and he gets killed from that. Like, it flies into the cockpit, and it has nowhere to go, and so it basically blows out the windows and stuff, and it kills him, so he's dead from that. So I have to assume Tarantulas is gone as well. And then Rat Trap is on top of this thing. They did the exact reference I thought they were gonna do, and I wish I could remember the name of the movie. I think it's Dr. Strangelove. And I'm sure you guys have seen this clip, but it's the clip where the dude's, you know, riding the nuke, and he's like, woo, and he's like swinging his hat around like a cowboy. They do that scene with Rat Trap on top of the missile for like a split second. I was like, I knew they were going to do that reference. So he's on the missile, and he's riding it as the ship goes down, and he jumps off as the ship hits, and Rampage is running from the ship as it's coming right towards him, and he's like, whoo, he gets to like this dead end, and it stops just before him, and he's like, oh, thank goodness, and he just starts laughing because he almost died. And then you hear this beeping on the missile, and then it stops beeping because the missile is finally charged, and he's stuck. Like, there is nowhere to go. There's like this tiny space behind him, but there's nowhere that he could go in time. And this missile launches, it had to have only been like 20 feet away from him on top of the ship, maybe 30 feet, just based on height and distance. And it just launches basically straight into him, and they just show an explosion. So I have to assume everyone has died in this episode. I mean, Rampage had to have died from that. Ravage certainly died, and I would assume because Tarantulas was at the front of the, you know, he was basically the explosion. He has to be gone too. Inferno, I have to assume, is dead because of the Energon thing. So everyone's gone. There are only 3 Predacons left right now, and that's Black Arachnia, Waspinator, and Megatron at this point. So it's just the three of them left, and they go through this whole battle once everyone's gone. Scorponok is there too. He was actually in this episode. I'm not 100% sure what happened to him. Like, he was in there with Rampage. He was standing on top of him shooting and stuff. And then he got hit and he landed on the ground. I don't know what the deal was. I was thinking about that because in the first part, he's not really there, like, at all. And I was like, man, what's up with Scorponok? I haven't seen him. Like, he'll have like one random line or something. I don't know if it was because something was going on with the actor where he couldn't be there or what the deal was. But I know for a fact that Scorponok should have been in this, or not Scorponok, but Quick Strike, should have been in this more than he was, because he has like a little line, and then he doesn't show up after the fight. Like, nothing happened to him. He got like shot in the back, and then he fell on the ground, and that was pretty much it. Like, they don't show him during part 3 at all, but, you know, like, it was just kind of weird. Like, he just disappeared after he got knocked down, and he was just gone. So something was going on with that. Like, that was something I definitely noticed. Like, he hasn't shown up a lot in the past couple episodes, and he certainly should have. And he just never had a scene. It was never like, you know, it was still just Waspinator, Rampage, and Inferno, and Quick Strike just magically disappeared. And Silverbolt's getting a ton of screen time, so I think that's another thing that I noticed, where it's like, he's, you know, there are only 2 Fusors, and it's Silverbolt and Quick Strike, and then Quick Strike is just like not there anymore. So that was a little weird. He wasn't really in it at all, but pretty much everybody dies. So the Maximals are kind of ahead right now, but they have this really bad thing going on because, of course, after everything goes down with the battle, Megatron is taking off, but he's not going towards base, as Optimus points out. And he's like, if he found what I think he found, we have a huge problem on our hands. And so they go after him. At this point, Silverbolt and Black Arachnia actually do get through all the rocks, and they make it inside this volcano. And this is what I was waiting for. I figured it was going to be this episode. I figured it had to be in the season finale. They get to the Ark, the actual Ark from the original G1 series. They find the Ark with both the Autobots and Decepticons on it, because in the original series, they're on the Ark, and then that's what the Transformers are trying to use. The Autobots are trying to use that to escape Cybertron as it's being, you know, basically ravaged by the Decepticons. And they chase them down. They actually get on the Ark as they're headed towards Earth, and it's messed up. The ship crashes into a dormant volcano, and everyone gets knocked out for like centuries. Like, they landed on Earth before even the Maximals and Predacons got sent back in time to Earth. They were already there still. So they get sent, you know, they crash land, and then they don't wake up until like 1984, I believe Black Arachnia says, when the volcano actually erupts. That kind of starts everyone else up. So the Autobots and Decepticons wake up. The Decepticons wake up first. I remember that from the first episode, and I can't remember why they didn't kill all the Autobots. It was something weird, like they couldn't attack because they were low on energy, I think. But all the Autobots, all the Decepticons are in there. We get to see some 3D models of, you know, some of the Autobots and Decepticons, some of which are actually moving because they do like a flashback from when the Ark is actually destroyed. So we get to see Optimus walk around a little bit. They have like Prowl and Ironhide in there. There's one other Transformer that I couldn't really make out while they were moving around. I couldn't tell who he was. But, you know, we actually get to see them moving, and then as Black Arachnia and Silverbolt get to the ship, Megatron shows up. And once that happens, things get a little crazy because Megatron takes out Silverbolt first. And so he can't get into the ship, and is like, well, I know that you actually stole my secret codes. I know you stole them before you destroyed my computer console. So I know you have the backup codes to get into this ship. And she's like, maybe I do. And of course, you know, he decides, well, I'm not going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot Silverbolt because that's a much more useful target. And it works. Of course, like, she tries to play it off the whole time. She's like, you know, shoot him, whatever. And then he's actually about to, and she stops him. And she tries to play it off, and it's like, you know, the only reason I'm doing this is because we got to run anyway, because the Maximals actually get there, and so they're about to, you know, get into the volcano. And she's like, move out of my way. Like, I'm only doing this because we got to get out of here anyway. So, fortunately, Silverbolt does end up getting saved. They do get inside of the ship. And so, Cheetor, Rhinox, Rat Trap, and Optimus all get inside the base. They have to deal with the Ark, because with Black Arachnia having these codes, she turns on the security systems. So they're being shot at by the security system. They're trying to attack it, and they have this line, which once again is very fourth wall breaking. And Rat Trap mentions like, man, this thing wasn't built; it was like bored or something like that. So because it's such a tough ship, and Optimus is like, die-cast construction, and then he doesn't exactly look at the camera, but they kind of have him turn, and he's like, it's a lost art. And I'm like, I assume that that's a huge reference to the fact that toys weren't being made with die-cast metal anymore during that time, which they weren't, because that's super effing expensive to be making a bunch of metal toys. So I feel like that was a huge joke, especially because Transformers were all full metal toys, and then I think, well, actually I know for a fact because I had some of the toys, by the time Beast Wars came around, toys were much cheaper, and it was like, alright, well, these are now made with plastic instead of metal. And it was just a huge reference, because it was, the Beast Wars Transformers getting to the point where they saw the G1 Transformers, and it's like, oh, it's die-cast metal, it's a lost art, and we're made with plastic and stuff. So it was a little in-joke to the toys and everything, and it was just a really silly little thing for them to throw in there, but I kind of enjoyed it. I was like, it's such a silly little reference, old toys being die-cast metal and stuff, and things changing by the time Beast Wars came out, and toys going to kind of the next generation, and being all plastic instead of being all metal. So I thought it was a nice little in-joke about the toys and everything. It was toys in general, but it really fit for Transformers because they were all metal when they first came out. So nice little in-joke there. And so they're dealing with the ship. Once again, Rat Trap pulls off an amazing shot, and he's finally the one to destroy the turret that's been messing with them. And as this is happening, once he destroys that turret, it knocks out Black Arachnia, because she's basically inputting the codes into Teletran 1, which is the computer system on the Ark. And so it knocks her out when he destroys the thing, because she's still like, it's basically like she's linked to it. And so when it gets destroyed, it kind of backfires, and she gets knocked out. And it's also funny, with them being so much tinier than the regular Transformers, like all the systems are like way up here, and they're all like down here and stuff. And I'm like, that's so funny, because she's like on the ground, and this laser is going like, it looks like it's going 50 feet in the air, because she's so tiny. Like, it would just be like some buttons for the normal Transformers, but they're so small. All the computer bases and all the buttons and stuff are like way up in the sky, and they're just like way down here. I'm like, that's such a funny comparison. Like, I knew that because I remembered it, but it's just so funny actually seeing that. It's crazy. But she gets knocked out. They destroy the turret, so they get to the front of the door, and Rat Trap can't hotwire it, and so Rhinox freaks out. He has a real Ironhide moment, and he shoots up the system, and it gets the door open like a tiny bit, and so he's using his force to try to rip the door open. And during this time, Megatron is kind of floating over all the Autobots and Decepticons. We get to see Starscream in the background. They do like a cool pan over Soundwave, which is very appropriate because they just recently cut off Ravage. So they do a little pan over Soundwave. You get to see some other Autobots and Decepticons in the background. And then we have Optimus sitting in his chair, like his commander's chair. And so, Megatron he's basically monologuing. He has a really good monologue, actually, where he's going and he's floating around, and he's kind of going through really the history of the Maximals and Predacons all the way back to the Autobots and the Decepticons. And it's like, all this time, everything that we've done, and, Optimus Prime, the leader who helped, carry the Autobots against the Decepticons to defeat them, and what allowed for them to rule us as Predacons. Like, he has a great speech, and he turns the tide. Like, he goes through all of this, and he's, kind of going through what is literally their history as a species, really, Cybertronians, but also down to the Autobots and Decepticons, Maximals and Predacons. And he puts all of his energies, like, computer transfer, all possible power into the laser cannon. And his arm is glowing. His arm is basically like a lightsaber, almost. Like, it's just glowing. There's no detail. It's just all like 3D animation. It's just energy pouring off of it. And he shoots Optimus Prime in the face, and his plan is to destroy him. And he shoots him in the face, and during this time, Rhinox is still trying to get into the ship. He's just doing everything he can to pull this door open, and then everything goes crazy because as he destroys Optimus, Megatron, of course, this light sort of shoots out through the ship and it hits the Maximals, and then they're all stuck in like this weird sort of spiral, and they're screaming and stuff because Megatron destroyed Optimus, and like time itself is coming undone, and there's like this big swirl and stuff, and they're all trapped in like these spirals and stuff, and Megatron's like, say goodbye, Maximals, because, I've changed the course of time and you will no longer exist. And it's crazy, like they're trapped in there, and then like all this energy like starts to come out, and it's like a giant tornado goes out of Earth, really, like a whole tornado. And then there's this explosion, and it's like a big shockwave, and it goes towards the camera, and then it cuts off. Like, we don't get to see what happens. It's just, he ruined time itself, and everything's changed now. And so it was a great ending. I really enjoyed it. I'm very excited to get into the final season. It sucks that I'm getting into the final season, especially because it's only like 13 episodes, so I'm actually going to get through it within, I'd say, probably the next 2 weeks, which is kind of sad, but I'm really excited to get back into the series and, get into this final season. But it was a great ending. Something else that was phenomenal early on in the first part, I don't think I mentioned this, they have a really great scene with Optimus and Silverbolt. Or no, it was in part 2, it wasn't part 1. In part 2, after they have the moment where Silverbolt won't shoot Black Arachnia, Optimus is like, he brings him into his quarters, and he has like a real general conversation with him. Like, he's an actual general in the army. He was super mad at him and stuff, and he's like, if I'm wrong, he's like, tell me I'm wrong and I'll apologize. And Silverbolt can't say anything, and he's like, that's just Prime. And he's like, I knew that something was going on, and he was like, whatever it is, it stops right now. And it was just a really cool moment where he was so mad at him, like, you don't know what she could be doing. And it all planned out for Megatron once again. That big gamble of having her go there worked out because she happened to get Silverbolt, and so they were able to, dig up all the rocks just as he was coming along, so he was able to just scoot right in there, destroy, get them out of the way, or at least Silverbolt, and get himself right in there, and it worked like he wanted it to. And that was just a great moment. And Silverbolt getting to Black Arachnia actually started with him punching out Cheetor, because he was confined to his quarters, and Cheetor went to talk like, hey, I'm sorry, I'll try to bring her in nicely. And he knocks Cheetor out, and he blows up a hole in the ship, and he takes off to find Black Arachnia. That's how they end up together, is he takes off. And Rat Trap actually connects with him and was like, I used to be young like that. And Optimus was pissed. He was like, what? He was like, crazy, right? But great scene, and I just wanted to mention that before I forget. But if you guys have any comments, please put them down in the comment section below. And of course, thank you guys for watching.